When someone beats you up, but now people know this is not it.
Welcome to 16 Minutes with Divine Simbi Ndhlukula. Today we are focusing on how national policy, community action, and household behaviors can work together to end gender-based violence, including digital abuse, economic abuse, and the daily risks faced by women and girls. I'm honored to be joined by Mrs. Lillian Matsika Takaendesa, the Chief Director, Gender Policy, Planning and Program Management at the Ministry of Women Affairs, Community and SME Development. Thank you, Chief Director, and welcome.
Thank you, Doc.
From the ministry's vantage point, Lillian, what forms of gender-based violence are showing up most frequently today, including online abuse, and which trends concerns you the most?
Thank you, Doctor. As the Minister of Women Affairs, we have been concerned mostly by several forms of gender-based violence that happen almost on a daily basis. And we have seen an increase in the number of women that are facing gender-based violence. But on the onset, I also want to say that it's not only the women and the girls, but we have seen incidents of boys and men that are facing gender-based violence as well. But referring to your question, the most severe gender-based violence that we have seen is physical abuse and sexual abuse. Those are the ones that are reported mostly. Other forms include economic violence, psychological violence, like we said, online violence. And online violence, we've seen it on the increase because I think most of the people are now exposed and do have gadgets and are very active on digital technology. And we've seen that it's affecting mostly women and girls. And it comes in forms of stalking, exposure of personal information without the women's consent. We've also noted that there's also violence that happen, even that facilitates girls and women trafficking. So these are some of the forms of violence that we've seen, but also of concern is the femicide, where women are killed, a partner intimate violence, where women usually they are killed during a scuffle, and people, when there's a place where the relationship's not working well, and some men resort to kind of murders because maybe they are failing to argue their way out. But we also on the side of men, we see a lot of suicides, because I think it is because of our culture that men are not supposed to talk about issues that happen within the home. And when a man goes to report, they are actually looked at as they are not men enough. How can you be beaten by a woman? But because of the change of gender roles, we see a lot of women are now working, and they have been working in the formal sector, and men are losing their jobs. So the gender roles changes at home. Now the man is now staying at home, looking after kids, expected to do house chores, and the woman is working. So those kind of narratives also bring out the issues where there's also economic violence against men as well, where the woman is bringing more money and the relationship change, the power dynamics change. So those are some of the things that we are noticing. But mostly, although men are facing gender-based violence, the numbers are increasing on the women and girls side.
So sad to hear that the numbers are increasing. I would have thought by now those numbers should have been decreasing because a lot of awareness has been happening over the years. But however,
I can actually take on that one that you're saying. It works. It's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
It's either the women know now how way to report. And they know the different channels, the way they can report. So that's why you find the increase.
Yeah.
Because the low rates of women not reporting, or the numbers that we have seen that were low, is people didn't report. And culturally, you are not supposed to talk about the issues that are happening in your family, in your marriage. So now, because of the raising of our awareness that we have done through partners, through government, through even the private sector, you have seen now women are conscious of their rights. And when someone knows their rights, now they can demand, to say, I've been violated, I want justice served. So there is a catch to it to say the increase of numbers of women of reporting, it means they know where to report and they know that these are forms of violence. When someone is not giving you money in the home to look after the family, is violence. When someone beats you up, but now people know this is not it.
Yeah.
So now women are reporting, and the girls themselves. And also you'll find that issues used to happen within the family setting. And you would say, how can you report to your uncle? How can you report your husband? But now because of the increase in awareness, you find women are reporting more. So for us, we take it as a positive move to say there are increasing numbers, but people are reporting and they're also getting access to GBV services.
Indeed, that's a very positive development.
Yes.
The fact that there's more reports, it means people are very much aware of their rights now, as opposed in the past, when, generations before, our mothers, even some of us, were not told not to report that your husband is beating you up. And from what you're saying, Lillian, I see a situation where violence eventually is emanating from either lack of economic means or too much economic means. And from where you sit, where are communities and families struggling the most? And what are the early signs that we would often miss at household or community level?
Where communities are struggling most and the vulnerability increases, where communities are living in poverty.
Yeah.
Poverty is a driver to gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Where there's also lack of food security in the home. If you look, there's also a nexus between gender-based violence and climate change.
Yeah.
Where the food security is not sufficient in the home, you will find there are a lot of child marriages. And why? Because they can't feed for the family. The next thing the father says, there's a man who wants to give us food, and the child who's most vulnerable is the girl. And also, because of poverty, we find a lot of school dropouts among the girls. And when they drop out from school, they go and live in their homes. The next thing, you are 14, the next thing is to get married. And who is marrying you? It could be another child marrying you. It could be an older person marrying you. So you find poverty, climate change, and food security has got a very close link to gender-based violence. And also during humanitarian situations, when there's a disaster, because the situation has changed, it's not a normal situation. You are scrounging for food, and you can actually get abused by the service providers themselves, because you are made to exchange food for services. Yeah. So those are the issues that we see is mostly affecting women and girls. Look at women in Epworth. Look at the girls in Epworth. Those were the ways you find a lot of child prostitution. And they don't have the power to negotiate. One safe sex, they can't negotiate safe sex. They can't negotiate with the person to say, how much am I giving? How much am I getting? They will be abused for $1. They will be abused for $2. And these are young girls. So you find, that's what I'm saying, poverty, it's a main driver of gender-based violence. And you said, what are the early signs? There's usually, if you see withdrawal syndromes, you used to be maybe a club of women within a community. Some women start not, coming to the community meetings. It's because maybe she's being told that where you are going, those women that you are talking to, those women you are discussing with, are the ones who are giving you all this information. I don't want you to go. We have seen even professionals losing jobs because the men feels threatened. You are growing too big, and you think this is not your boardroom. My house is not your boardroom. You are a chief director. When you're in the Ministry of Women Affairs, you come home, you become, what I want. So there's a lot of things that we're covering up as women. And especially the professional women normally will not talk about it. Sometimes we say those women who are living in poverty, the professionals, you can never get a discussion with among the professional women where they are talking live as it is happening within their home settings. That's another thing. But the other issue is also people covering for bad behavior. To say I come with a blue eye, and I say, joke, I bumped into a door, but I've been, I've been given a blow. You cover up because you don't want to expose your man or your partner. So these are things that happen. And also the covering up where you find that a husband, a father abuses a child. But this woman is not working. And she knows that if she reports the husband, you'll be imprisoned. And what will I do with the family, with the children?
Yeah.
They cover up. Also relatives to say, you know. So there's a lot of, covering up that happens within the communities. And we need to actually, sometimes when you see something and it's not looking good, try to interrogate. Because for us, it says, we are saying, we are each other's keeper.
Yeah.
There's no point of, now when the femicide happens and you say, but we used to think that, we used to actually suspect that she was being beaten. So there's a lot of covering up that happens. There's a lot of, early signs that we don't even clip in the bud when they are happening. And to say, that's what he does when he's drunk.
Yeah. Indeed, I totally agree that poverty to a very great extent is the driver of the greater part of violence that is happening to women in the communities, in their home places, and the young girls that you see in Epworth, in these places, is really a lack of economic means that is driving this level of abuse. So Lillian, let's go deeper into what prevention looks like practically at home, in schools, in communities, and through the ministry's structures. How can families, local leaders, schools, and faith communities align with the ministry's prevention and protection frameworks to keep women and girls safe?
Doc, maybe I would just want also to mention that His Excellency the President signed what we call the high-level political compact. That he signed this high-level political compact with all leaders in society, the community, the religious leaders, the heads of commissions, heads of ministries, heads of religious and traditional leaders. And why he did this is to say that fighting gender-based violence is not a government or the Ministry of Women's responsibility. Everyone in society has a responsibility. That's why you also saw maybe on the launch, when we launched this year's 16 days, he also gave a statement to say everyone has a responsibility to fight gender-based violence. So for us, that core is also one of the preventive measures. To say the head of state is called to say no to gender-based violence. All the leaders have signed to say no to gender-based violence. If we have commitment at the highest level like that, it makes everyone accountable to how they are fighting and preventing gender-based violence. So one thing that we have noted that it's also cheaper for us to prevent gender-based violence than to respond to gender-based violence. So the measures that we've taken as ministry, working together with partners in private sector, is to raise awareness. They cannot know unless they are told. So our mothers, our grandmothers, they didn't know that they were being abused. When they were forced to Garanak, they were being abused. When their children were taken from them, they were being abused, and the children were being abused. When the Babamkuru does Chiram, that was abuse. So we have now come to a place where we have developed documentaries, done road shows, developed IEC material to say we need to raise the awareness. What is gender-based violence? What are the forms of gender-based violence? So that people can be aware. But also to say when it happens, where do you go? So the issue of bringing media also media has played a very big role, because we need this information to be disseminated to the lowest level. And then at community level, we had interactions with traditional leaders. Some in Mashonaland West, the traditional leaders in Mashonaland West have done a pact where they say, not in my village. So they have now agreed to say their local bylaws within the community to say, I will not tolerate gender-based violence in my ward or in my village, And they are the ones who are now pushing the agenda. And what we have also seen that has worked well is engaging men as allies in fighting gender-based violence and talking to other men. It's easier for a man to talk about the bad or the negative impact of gender-based violence to another man than me coming. They will know, they will say, we have started. But now we have men who have been, we are now alive to the issues of gender-based violence. The men who are now taking charge to say, we want to mobilize men to fight against gender-based violence. In schools, we have also developed curriculums that we work with the Ministry of Education. To start talking about gender-based violence. Because it starts at school, actually. It starts at school because the boy feels it is macho than the girl. They can beat up the girl. They can do all sorts of things. So we start talking about these things in school so that the boys and the girls are aware of what is gender-based violence. But what we have emphasized is the family setup.
Yeah.
Everything what we are doing today at our age, me
Yeah.
and you, is with what our mothers told us.
Yeah.
What they were running this business, but you always remember what my mother said. You remember how you grew up. Remember how things used to happen. So the socialization within the home plays a very big part.
100%.
The moment you say to a boy, "Ndinevanji, ndivo baba," and baba avasuki my plates. So I'm saying to us as communities, as Zimbabwe, let's socialize our children, the girl and the boy, to know that they are equal. What the boy can do, the girl can also do.
Yeah.